There you go. And in that, there are people in this room whose family and friends have had their lives affected by, their jobs affected by, decisions around oil and gas that happen outside of our province and outside of our country. What's your sense of a way forward and a better conversation about energy?
Well, look, I think all of us are going to have to recognize that there are trade-offs involved with how we live, how our economy is structured, and the world that we're going to be passing on to our kids and our grandkids. And nobody's exempt from that conversation. The fact of the matter is that oil and gas have powered the Industrial Revolution, have powered Canada's economy, the US economy, and have powered the world. And it has been an extraordinary run and is still the cheapest means for us to power all the things that we do. And, well, there you go.
It also powers him, so
yes.
that's good.
Now, what is also true? I told you, I believe in science. Here's the science. It is indisputable that the planet's getting warmer. It is indisputable that although we can't ascribe any particular event, weather event, to rising temperatures, that at the current pace that we are on, the scale of tragedy that will consume humanity is something we have not seen in perhaps recorded history if we don't do something about it. I mean, if the oceans go up 3, 4, 5 feet, then the 3 or 4 billion people who live along coastlines are going to have to move. The cities that are located there are going to be underwater. If you start seeing the permafrost melt and methane is then released in the atmosphere, it goes even faster. As things get warmer, you start getting insect-borne diseases. My understanding is that moose right now are starting to have to deal with tick-borne diseases that they didn't have to 10, 15 years ago. I really like moose. I assume Canadians, you do too. So these are just facts. And the question then becomes, how do we create a ramp whereby not just in the aggregate, but in places like Alberta, we are recognizing we're going to have to come up with newer energy sources. We're going to have to try to clean up old energy sources that aren't as clean as they need to be. And there is going to be a transition, and it is going to be disruptive. But we can figure it out. The alternative is that we will do very well now, but by the time certainly my grandkids are the age of your children, I don't have grandkids yet, by the way, but so I'm projecting forward. But within your children's lifetime, we can have a really chaotic situation that is hard to reverse. And recall what I said earlier about all the disruptions of globalization and automation, and how that helped to create a more toxic politics. Imagine when you have not a few 100,000 migrants who are escaping poverty or violence or disease, but you now have millions. Imagine if you start seeing, monsoon patterns in the Indian subcontinent changing so that 500 million people can't grow food and are displaced. Think about what that does to the politics of the world, not just the economics of it, not just the environment. So if you are a practical person and you, let's say, work in the oil and gas industry right now, and it provides a great living, and you feel like you're providing a great service, and this is critical to the global economy, and you take great pride in your work, you should. But understand that we're going to have to make some choices, one way or the other. And either we're going to do it intentionally and thoughtfully and seriously, or it will happen to us. And by the time it happens to us, it may be too late. And that, I think, is how we have to think about it. So, look, the same extraordinary engineering and science that is applied to getting at hard oil, right? I mean, it's not like these days you just put a spike in the ground and stuff shoots up. I mean, it's extraordinary what they're doing to extract oil and gas. And the engineering that exists within oil and gas industries, if some of that starts getting invested by those same companies in developing other energy sources, and those engineers and scientists are transitioning into some of these other ways of us turning on the lights and getting our cars moving. You guys can figure it out, but you gotta be open to it. And what I do get frustrated with is, and this is more extreme in the United States, where I've got a U.S. senator who is actually the chairman of the Energy Committee, holding up a snowball in Washington on the floor of the Senate and saying, look, there's no global warming because it's really cold outside. You laugh, this happened. That's bad. That's not a good way of approaching problems.
Well, it isn't. And I will say, on behalf of all of us, the folks that here in this room, and I know this because I live here, that they work, they spend their lives solving problems. And this is just another one to say we have some of the smartest and greatest problem solvers in the country living in this city and living in this industry. And
it's a good booster, huh? Yeah.
Okay, speaking of...
He's really flattering all you guys, you know? It's good.
We got some smart people in this room.
I believe it. They look smart.
Okay, as I said, I got an 8-year-old and a 6-year-old. I got to ask this. When your wife, Michelle, was here last year, sitting down with the great Cassie Campbell and had this tremendous conversation, and those of us that were there or also read her book, well, one of the questions that came up is, how the heck did you land her?
Persistence. For the young men out there, if you got somebody who's basically superior to you, you just nag the hell out of them. You know? And just stay on it, and you may wear them down.
Well, you've done well. We can certainly say that. What are you glad you did with your kids? And this is totally a selfish question. What are you glad you did with your kids that Blythe and I can do with our younger kids? Looking back, you clearly have done something well. What is it that we can do?
Well, look, I give Michelle all the credit for how well our daughters have turned out. And they actually are remarkable kids.